Welcome to the Income Outcome Show, a podcast publication part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. The Income Outcome Show is dedicated to pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, pharmacy students, and all pharmacy professionals interested in maximizing their income and providing insights into living a financially free lifestyle.
All matters discussed during this podcast are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Waypoint Strategic Advisors, LLC, and our editorial staff. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representations as to its accuracy or completeness. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to implementation. The presence of this podcast shall in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to anyone. Waypoint Strategic Advisors, LLC is not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and are not engaged in the practice of law. Content should not be viewed as an offer to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned or as legal or tax advice. You should always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation.
And now here are your hosts of the Income Outcome Show, Ben Coakley with Waypoint Strategic Advisors and Joe Cassleman with Pharmacist Financial.
Welcome to the October version of Incomes and Outcomes podcast. We're powered by the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I am your host, Ben Coakley, and I'm here with my compadre, Joe Cassleman. I am the owner of Waypoint RX, and Joe is with Pharmacy Financial. So, Joe, go ahead and say hi.
Hello, how's everybody doing today? It's good to be out here.
All right, so the focus today is going to be on pharmacy ownership at the NCPA convention. And we're going to talk a little bit about, ownership and kind of the struggles and challenges that owners have. And we're hoping to have a couple people come on and actually talk about some of the struggles they've had in their life in pharmacy. And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to interview somebody that's just starting out, maybe a student or a new practitioner, and then somebody maybe who's about to exit.
Yeah, and hopefully somebody in the middle.
Yep.
If we can find somebody to come over and talk to us who's not intimidated to sit here and look like they know what they're doing. So I think what I first want to talk about is talk a little bit about ownership and kind of how people go through the process of becoming an owner and some of the struggles maybe that they have transitioning through their life in pharmacy. We have this concept that we like to use called the community pharmacist life cycle, and it's all designed to help people manage their lives through pharmacy, and the financial component of that is a huge part. Wouldn't you say that, Joe?
Absolutely, and especially you have the finances that deal with your business, and then you have finances that deal with your personal life, and making sure those are working together.
Absolutely. I think you like to use the terminology. You have a personal economy and a business economy, and managing those two things is very important through your life in pharmacy, through that journey that you end up going through. So let's review the life cycle a little bit, kind of what happens and what kind of the steps that people go through, and talk about some of the challenges that we've seen with that. So the first half of the life cycle we call the growing phase. It's more like your sunrise of your life in pharmacy. The back end we think is more like your exit process and more like the sunset of your life. And the first phase is what we call startup. And this is when, as an owner, you're kind of just trying to keep your head above water, and you need to focus on some core critical things at that point. And I'm going to let Joe list a few of them here, because I think it's important. If you focus on these and try to eliminate all the other potential distractions, it'll allow you to survive and move through this life cycle.
Yeah, so some of the things that when you're starting up, whether you're about to be an owner or you are first year or two, are some of the basics, but are sometimes hard to master: cash flow and debt management. And having some good habits and some good budgeting early on will actually help you years down the road when you own 4 or 5 pharmacies as well. So kind of getting your head wrapped around what's going to take before and the first couple years into pharmacy, whether that's raising capital, getting financing, hiring employees, maybe a 401k. Do you need to do a 401k right away, or should you wait a little bit? Things like that.
Yeah, and it's really important that you focus on. You got to focus on the business cash flow. Depending on how you actually buy the pharmacy, cash flows can differ. If you borrow money, you'll probably borrow enough to manage cash flow for the business for a year or two. But it's really important that we can't get so caught up in the pharmacy financial management that we forget we still have to manage our personal stuff. And I think we find that happening. And I think a lot of owners, they've actually told me that, well, if I just manage my business, the personal stuff will come. And the challenge that you have is we only have so much time, energy, and money. So we need to make sure that, that our money has a plan and that our money behaves. And I think that's really important. The other thing, Joe, I want you to talk about a little bit is talk about what kind of team maybe you want to have on your team, and what kind of advisors you want to have when you're starting a business.
Good point. So starting a business, whether it's a pharmacy or any kind of business, it's always good to have a team. You want to have some kind of accountant or CPA help you do with books. You need to have somebody that understands financing, ways to get capital for expansion or for initial purchase. There's insurances, different types of insurances. You might want an insurance advisor, maybe different ones for different types. Maybe a mentor and a coach as well. A business coach, or even a pharmacy owner that's a coach that does consulting, that can come in and say, hey, here's some things you need to think about that you don't know yet. And then on the overall finance side, people like us that help you look at the finances and building your business and personal wealth. Getting all those team members, not that you have to have them all at the day one, but starting to get those team to be with you hopefully throughout your career.
Yeah, and what's amazing about team members is they need to grow. They need to grow with you as you grow, and we're going to talk a lot about that as we transition to the next part of this life cycle. And so we're going to kind of skip past survival and go to success slash mastery. There is a process that you really need to follow to move through this life cycle, but our focus here is more on the startup, more the middle of the road, and then we'll talk about kind of the exit, the transition process. So we're going to move to the success mastery and start talking about some of the financial issues that you face when you are in those phases of the life cycle. One of the things that's amazing about this is owners at this stage of the game actually come to me and they say, hey, I actually have a little bit extra money finally, that I can actually do some of the things I've always wanted. And we have a belief that there's really three primary financial objectives, and this is really important. There's wealth accumulation, there's standard of living, and then there's financial security. And so what happens is maybe for a long time we were throwing money back into the business trying to keep it going, and now we've got dollars we can actually start to allocate for those three primary financial objectives. And how you allocate those actually really determines, in our opinion, ultimately how viable life after pharmacy is going to be for you. So starting really at this stage of the game is where we've got to start putting stuff together and making sense of this stuff and really having a plan moving forward.
And to add on to that, Ben, kind of taking a step back, what we're also talking about is the idea of, once you start having success in your business, the idea that you might have is, hey, my pharmacy is going to be my retirement plan, or is it going to be my retirement plan? And so being able to look at your personal side and say, hey, now that we do have some money coming in, let's take care of our personal side and not rely so much or only on the pharmacy.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you wrote on the outline for this podcast was, is your business your retirement? Is your pharmacy your retirement? And the danger with that is when you're so dependent. I asked an owner the other day, what's the price of a prescription going to be in 20 years? And he said, I have no idea. And I said, why do we make that assumption about our business that we're actually going to know what it's worth in 20 years? I said, I don't want to take anything for granted. I want to make sure that our clients actually have the income and the net worth and the wealth outside their business, so they're not so 100% dependent on that for and the advice that you receive should reflect that at this stage of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And for an example, I had a client that owns 5 stores currently, and we were talking the other day and looking at retirement, and he said, Joe, why don't we assume that the value of my pharmacy is going to be $1? Will I be taken care of if it's only $1? And obviously it's not going to be $1, but I like that perspective because it helps shift the focus. Say, hey, are you taking care of outside your pharmacy as well as on the inside?
Yeah, and once again, we can't overstate that's got to be part of the process. And what happens is, really from an advisor standpoint, the advice that you're getting should reflect that. We do see right here is when, at this stage of the game, is where a lot of people start to really evaluate and change advisors because their needs have changed. You need more complex solutions at this point. And I think that's interesting because when you get the advice that you need, that ultimately then is going to lead to transitioning through this life cycle and ultimately to the legacy and contribution part. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here is that this is also the part of the life cycle where a lot of owners expand to multiple locations. I know that a lot of you listening to this podcast have a goal to be a multi-store owner. The advice, everything, the way you think about time, the way you think about resources, all of that changes the moment that you begin to think about becoming multi-store owner. And I think it's really important to understand that. And if your advice reflects that, you'll be successful with it as long as you listen to your advisors and the advice is high quality.
Absolutely. And that's why we're excited today. We're going to be talking to hopefully 3 different pharmacists that are one that's at the beginning of this life cycle phase and one that's in the middle, maybe the expansion, and one that's towards the end, about to exit. And so we're going to ask them what's working for them and what they would do differently and what maybe one action that they can take today.
Perfect, Joe. And I think that's a good transition to kind of the last part of the life cycle, the reward/contribution phase of your life. This is a lot of owners are at this phase of the game, and they're starting to ask themselves, what is their legacy? And they have a business. Maybe they want to keep it independent. Maybe they want to take care of their family. Maybe there's a lot of things that they've put off that they now want to do. And we actually have had numerous transitions out of the pharmacy just this year. And I have a client who just a couple of weeks ago sold her business, and she called me, and she said, I never realized how freeing that would be. She said, I'm going to miss it. But I'm looking forward to being able to spend time with my grandkids and doing the things that I've put aside and willingly sacrificed to be a business owner, to take care of my patients. And it's time for me to focus on me for the rest of my life. And I thought that was so impactful to me because I think sometimes we take that for granted. We understand we're a valuable asset to our communities, and pharmacy owners are so altruistic that sometimes they don't think about themselves enough. Our motto is think different, think you. Sometimes we actually got to say, what's in this for me and how do I get what I want out of this? What do you think?
Absolutely. Don't put it aside because you're busy all day. Think about it throughout the day while you're working as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of our solutions reflect that. We have a new time management system and things like that because owners are now telling us that, hey, the demands of this business is really impacting us, and we need to think about things differently, look at things differently, look at our time, because I still want to I want to be able to serve my patients, but I want to serve my family as well.
Absolutely.
And one of my favorite stories, Joe, and you'll appreciate this, you probably heard the same thing, is we ask our clients, every single one, what's the longest time you've ever been away from your pharmacy? And one lady looked at me and said,
Never.
3 days. 3 days. 3 days, and I was like, wow, 3 days.
Yeah.
NCPA is a 5-day convention. We're here for 5 days, and we're away from our business. And so it's challenged us to think a little bit differently and not make the assumption that these people have the ability to do some of the things that we're blessed to do in our business. So I said, where do you want to go? What's your dream trip? And she said, I want to take a cruise, and I'm not going to tell you where because she's probably listening, but I want to take a cruise, and I want to take a 10-day cruise. And I said, well, what do you need? She said, well, I need my staff to be able to do this and this. So she had thought about this for so long, and when I asked her, why haven't you done it? She said, well, I can't leave because, it's one of my favorite answers, I process payroll, and we pay people weekly.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't pay them on Friday, I'm not sure I'll have a staff when I come in on Monday from that cruise. And so it was a simple thing like that we were able to work through and build out a system and a process for them to be able to manage the store, where this lady was able to take her cruise. And she sent me hundreds of pictures, and she's so thankful. She kisses me and hugs me every time she sees me because of just asking those questions on what you want. And I bring this up because that may be on your mind. If you're nearing the end of your career and your life in pharmacy, or maybe you want to transition to another role in pharmacy, we see a lot of that too. These are some of the things that you're going to have to think about, let alone the financial. Do I have enough money to retire? It's not as easy as having enough money. If it were just all about dollars, our job would be very easy.
Yeah, it would just be all on a computer or an app.
Yeah, you wouldn't even need us. But managing the emotion and managing all these different things you got to manage, I think, is so important. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring on our first guest, if that's okay, Joe.
Absolutely.
And we'll bring her on, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're here with Erin Blackman Stelling, and she is with the Medicine Cabinet in Lake City, South Carolina. And Erin has decided to be our guinea pig for talking about getting ready to be a pharmacy owner. So Erin, how right now are you preparing financially to be an owner?
I would say that I'm just in the beginning stages of beginning to think about that and trying to figure out what that plan might be like. And actually, probably my first step was speaking with your dad and planning a time for us to try and get together with Matt and start helping us figure that out.
Okay. So do you feel like, the biggest challenge that you're facing, is it getting organized financially, or?
Yes, figuring out what I need to prioritize right now to be able to make those payments every month and to actually start purchasing the store. How do I prioritize what I'm looking at? 'Cause right now I'm just looking on a personal standpoint, of how we are paying for our house and how we're doing all of these things, and now it's going to change a little bit.
So the complexity is getting a little bit more complex, because now we're not only managing our little personal economy, we're managing a business economy.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so tell me, what's your time frame? What's the kind of time frame? Have you thought about kind of when you're going to take over the full ownership of the company?
We don't have an exact time frame. I think that me coming into the store and working for a little while, we had the goal of just making sure that we were both happy with the situation, and then we would go from there. Maybe after a year or so, we should talk about, and then I think it'll be a gradual of, maybe 25%, or maybe we don't have an exact number yet.
Okay, so
exact time frame.
Perfect. So you're thinking this is more like a junior partnership type arrangement, and if I'm correct, I think that's how your dad
envisions it as well.
And that's how he bought the pharmacy from his partner.
Yes, that is exactly how that.
Yeah, and we wrote a great article about that, I think, in America's Pharmacist many years ago, and about how that. And if anybody here who's listening, you want a copy of that article, just reach out to Joe or I, and we'll get you a copy of that. But one of the things I hear in the marketplace here, the junior partnerships don't work, and that's something that with your dad and his partner, it worked very well, and so y'all are envisioning kind of a similar type success story.
Yeah, I think that you're definitely going to have mixed opinions on that, but I think one of the important things is you've got to be able to trust who that junior partner is, and I think that is probably why some don't survive and some do. And my dad and his past partner, they had an immense amount of trust. They were both very good to each other, and I think that will be important to us having a partnership.
Sure. And it helps to be the daughter too, right?
Yeah, but there may also be times where that might be a downfall as well.
Absolutely. When you throw that family dynamic in,
it changes.
Yeah, it does. It changes the relationship. So awesome. So do you feel like you're behind in any areas at this point, or do you feel like you're moving along at a kind of a quick enough pace to where you'll be ready?
I honestly don't know, because I don't know what to expect right now. This has been a kind of a sudden change for me. I, didn't think I was going to have this opportunity until about 6 to 8 months ago. So I probably am behind, but I don't know exactly how far.
Sure. Now we're kind of coming up on time here. You were part of our Next Gen RX group, and one of the things that we try to help people understand is it's important to surround yourself with your peers and people who share similar characteristics and similar situations and circumstances. What has been your experience? I know you've been to one meeting, but what's been your experience with Next Gen RX?
It was amazing. Me and my husband both feel like we learned a ton there. The people, definitely we feel like they're above our knowledge level, but everyone was so wonderful about explaining things and helping say, do you understand that? Do you not? Do you need me to? And just the freedom of sharing those ideas and trusting those people and learning from all different types of people. Some of these people being pharmacists, some of them being engineers, some of their families own multiple stores, some only own one. There's just an array of so many different types of people and ideas and knowledge. It's been fabulous.
Awesome. So with that being said, what would be one thing you think you can take away from what you've learned here at NCPA that you can take back to your business that's going to help you be a better business owner?
I think one of the important things right now is that we've got to stay maybe not ahead of the game, but with the game that pharmacy is possibly changing, and it is changing, and things need to be more integrated, and we need to be taking better care of our patients, and that's going to bring us other ways to get paid eventually, because just dispensing medicine is probably not going to make us millionaires. We've got to take better care of people and use that and get with these networks of enhanced services networks so that we are approaching things from that way, and I think that will help our business survive. And then, there's still a ton of business-related things, but I feel like that's super important right now.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Erin, thank you so much for coming. We do appreciate it. We know you're a little nervous doing this, but we do feel this has been extremely valuable, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm here with Ben Coakley from Health Center Pharmacy in Winfield, Kansas. How are you doing today, Ben?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. So Van, one of the things we're doing here at NCPA is we're talking about ownership.
Yes.
And we've had interviews of people different stages of their life in pharmacy. And I understand you're kind of working through your exit strategy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So tell me a little bit about the challenges that you're facing, that you faced when you decided you wanted to get out of your pharmacy.
Just being able to divorce yourself from the day-to-day, and there's still things that comes up and I look at them and go, I need to do this. And then I go, wait, I don't have to do that anymore. That's somebody else's problem and not mine.
So it necessarily hadn't been financially at this point. It's more the kind of the mental, emotional side of things.
That's exactly. The financial portion of it, really, I'm only like about 3 months into that. So it's not necessarily knowing what to do with anything yet, but it's coming to that because, I'm still earning an income working for my current boss, the new owner, but, that's not going to be forever. And so I need the help on knowing what to do and kind of putting together a budget of how to budget money, because I've never really done that before.
So a big step for you financially will be to, hey,
right.
here's how much income I have, here's how much money I have, I need to make that last the rest of my life.
Exactly.
And I need to get on a budget.
Yes.
In order to make that happen.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So how did you sell your pharmacy? Did you do a junior partnership? Did you do, how is that working?
Actually, what I did is I identified early on that I needed an exit strategy. And it just so happened that the buyer come to me asking if I was hiring. And I said, well, let's talk. And That was in 2003, and we're at 2017. In July, she purchased the pharmacy, and my original intention was finding some way to give her the car keys and let her drive the health center pharmacy car.
Okay, awesome. What do you think was her biggest challenge in this whole situation?
Just trying to get, to me, it was trying to get family life arranged out, because in the middle of everything, her husband changed jobs twice and moved to his current position, and he's self-employed with another accountant. There were a couple of kids involved in all of this, and then some other things, everything just finally fell together right, and it was just a matter of timing, and it's like anything else. And
so basically you just hang on, you got your strategy and patience and work in the process?
Yes, it is. Patience is the main thing, because I kind of ended up 2 years behind where I wanted to be, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think it was Stephen Covey who said sometimes we get so consumed with time that we got to be here by this point. We're climbing that ladder.
Yes.
If we forget to look up because we realize our ladder is leaning against the wrong tree.
Yes.
So I think it's important for all of you out there who are listening, if you're at that stage of the game when you're thinking about exiting your business, that this is a process, and patience is key to this. We have had situations where owners have gotten too antsy and pulled the trigger too quickly without doing their homework and their due diligence, and it ends up backfiring on them. So tell me a little bit about what's one action you think you can do kind of today to ensure that this transition is going to be one that lasts, and that Van and Jeanette Coble can move on without having to worry about what's going on in that drugstore. What do you think?
That's a tough question. It really is. My biggest thing is that, I need your help, Ben, to invest and help me take care of finances along with this, and get opinions, because you said I'm very opinionated. Yes, I am, but some of my opinions are developed by taking the advice or listening to several different points of view to come up with my opinion. And I think that's really important, that you've got several different things and look at it broadly, and then you pull it in together, and this is the direction I want to take. This is the path I want to go down. And then you go down that path, and then at some point in time you're going to hit another fork in the road, and then you've got to determine what path do you want to go down there again. And then eventually it's not going to make any difference, because you're going to be old enough and you can sit and watch The Price is Right. That's a whole nother bag of marbles right there. Yeah.
Is what do you actually do after life after pharmacy, or during life after pharmacy? So what are you and Jeanette, what are y'all planning on doing? How are you going to spend the rest of your life?
Well, right now, my sister and I, when my dad passed a year ago, we fully inherited about 750 acres of pasture ground in southeastern Kansas, and so that's some prime cattle raising area. We can rent that out. I've got stuff to work there. I've also got several different fishing holes that I want to frequent more often than what I am now. Jeanette, I'm not exactly sure. We're actually looking at building a home on some of that ground, and moving over there and kind of getting away from everything. Although I won't say Winfield, Kansas is the speed of life in Winfield is pretty slow.
Yeah.
Where we're moving, it'd probably move like We'll go from a box turtle to a snail's pace.
I hear you. So, well, Van, I appreciate you coming on today, and good luck with everything. And we look forward to seeing all the things you do in the future. Okay.
All right. Hey, thanks, man.
Yes, sir. All right. So that wraps up 2017 NCPA. We had a great time here, Joe. Did you have a good time?
It was absolutely fun.
All right, and I think Joe was talking about our passion for pharmacy and pharmacy ownership, and Joe, I think you recognize kind of the passion that pharmacy owners have for their patients and learning.
Yeah, Ben, I mean, you and I have such a passion for what we do, and it's nice to be around people, pharmacists, that have such passion for what they do. It's uplifting, and it actually makes us want to work harder.
Yeah, and I think we got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
A lot of good ideas this week, and I think that we're going to be able to take some of those back and create better solutions for you, the pharmacist out there and the pharmacy owner, and talk to a lot of students.
Yep.
That we're thoroughly impressed with the quality of students coming out of schools these days.
I think the future pharmacy is looking pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good, pretty bright. So we had a good time talking to a couple people here. We talked to somebody who just bought into a pharmacy.
Yep.
And was buying her dad out, Aaron, and then we had a good talk with a gentleman who had just executed his exit strategy, Van. And I think what you find out, some of the commonalities between them, they all love pharmacy, they all love people, they all want to succeed and serve others. And I think if we keep those qualities and those characteristics, and keep those things top of mind, that community pharmacy has a very bright future.
Absolutely. And especially financially. I mean, the better financially they're taking care of both business and personal, the happier they're going to be, the better they can serve and be great for their clients and their own passion for pharmacy. So we complement each other. I feel like we help them financially, and that helps them do better at pharmacy, and that helps us in return.
Absolutely, and I think we have a saying that happy pharmacies need happy pharmacists.
Yes. We all want happy pharmacists, for sure.
Exactly. We all want that. Listen, these are the people that are dispensing your meds. We want them to be happy. Yeah. So happy pharmacies need happy pharmacists. Our focus is to create happy pharmacists, and hopefully that will resonate into successful businesses and ultimately a successful life after pharmacy.
Absolutely. And Ben, real quick, after talking to all these people this week, what's one action that an owner or a pharmacist that wants to own that they can take today? What's something they could take away from this weekend?
A potential owner. The one thing that I learned is that they really need to get organized.
Organized, yes.
Organization is imperative for this, because if you truly want to be an owner, there's so many things that go into that it takes organization, and it takes you looking at the world a little bit differently.
Yeah. And they don't have to organize it by themselves. There's so many people and resources to help.
Absolutely, yeah. I talked to hundreds of people today who help with pharmacy ownership.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to do this
You're
on your own.
not by yourself, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to do this on your own. Yeah. So I think a lot of people look at this and sometimes create this mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
And the idea that you have to do this on your own, that's just not accurate. Yeah. There are people who care for you and want you to achieve your goal of owning a business. Yeah. And so you just got to just look and ask and connect and network.
And they call it community pharmacy for a reason.
That's right.
It's one big happy community.
Yeah, we're one big happy community. So how about you, Joe? What's one thing you think somebody who is thinking about getting out of the business, what's one thing you think they should do today?
You mean exiting?
Yeah, exiting. Yep, exiting their business.
Before anything financial or the numbers, I think on the emotional side or the personal side, what are you going to do afterwards? And I don't mean how you're going to make money or what's your retirement income going to look like. What are you actually going to do with your time? How are you going to fulfill your time and be fulfilled like you were when you were in the pharmacy?
So having something fulfilling outside.
As fulfilling outside.
Yeah. So how do you, replacing that 40 to 50 hours a week with something that's meaningful to your life?
Not that they have to do 40, 50 hours, but as reward, every day they can wake up and say, this is what I want.
Yeah. I think, Joe, and I think that's an important part, because I do think that pharmacy owners, they don't think about the emotional side of getting out. And I think that became clear with Van, talking to Van, that one of the things he mentioned is he said, I realized that I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
There's somebody in there that'll do that,
Yeah.
and then what do I do with myself now? and I'm not as important. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
You are as important. There are things in your life that you make a difference in. It may not be the pharmacy side of things anymore.
But you left an impact in that pharmacy world that will last forever too.
Yeah, and a lot of our owners, and just to sum this up, a lot of our owners, they transition to a different role in pharmacy.
Yeah.
They don't just stop.
Yeah.
I think Van, one of his goals was to go work for the state association to help pass legislation that's beneficial to independent pharmacy owners. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on with this whole thing, and I think, Joe, if they want to get in touch with us, how do they do that?
Listen to the podcast and go to pharmacypodcast.com.
Or you can email Joe at
joe@pharmacistfinancial.com.
or Ben at waypointus.com, and we'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much. This will summarize our October edition of Incomes and Outcomes.
Yeah, we'll be talking to you soon.
Interested in learning more about maximizing your income and living a financially free lifestyle? Contact the Income Outcomes Show today to learn more about your financial possibilities and best practices in managing your money to create opportunities for lasting wealth. Go to pharmacypodcast.com under the contact section and send us a message, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. Thanks for listening to the Income Outcomes Show, a podcast publication part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network.